The Galactic Council had designated Sector 7 Theta as a quarantine zone for the past 3 centuries. The planet Karvoth Prime, nestled in its center, was home to the galaxy's most efficient apex predator, the Shadow Maw. Every species that had encountered them had the same advice: stay away. Commander Zekthar of the Vrelian Defense Force stood at the edge of the drop zone, his chitinous plates clicking nervously as he watched the human, just one human, check his equipment with disturbing casualness. Specialist Marcus Chen, Zekthar's translator buzzed, I must protest this decision once more. The Shadow Maws have eliminated entire battalions. They hunt in packs, use tactical coordination, and have never been successfully engaged on their own territory. Marcus looked up from his rifle, a grin spreading across his face that made Zekthar's sensory stalks recoil. Humans had that unsettling expression, baring teeth which on any sensible world meant aggression, but they claimed indicated pleasure. Commander, Marcus said, slinging his pack over his shoulders. On Earth, we have a saying, hold my beer. Zekthar had no idea what a beer was or why anyone would hold it, but the human's tone suggested it was not a phrase born of wisdom. The science team is trapped in the research facility, Marcus continued, his voice taking on a more serious tone. They have maybe 6 hours of oxygen left. Your orbital scans show 47 Shadow Maws between here and there. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to walk in there, make some noise, and walk out with our people. You keep the shuttle warm. This is madness, Zekthar whispered. Nah. Marcus checked his weapon one last time. This is Tuesday. The human dropped from the shuttle before Zekthar could form another protest. The forest of Karvoth Prime was a nightmare of bioluminescent flora and dense twisted vegetation. Marcus moved through it like water, his steps calculated and quiet. He'd studied the Shadow Maws, 3-meter-tall pack hunters with reinforced exoskeletons, razor-sharp appendages, and a hive-mind communication system that made them devastatingly coordinated. On paper, they were perfect killers. On paper, humans shouldn't have survived their own evolution either. The first Shadow Maw detected him within 10 minutes. Marcus saw its thermal signature through his visor before it saw him, a mistake it would never make again except it wouldn't get another chance. He didn't fire. Instead, he triggered a sonic beacon on his belt. The creature's screech echoed through the forest. Good. That would bring the others. Marcus had read the tactical reports, the ones that described how Shadow Maws surrounded and overwhelmed their prey. What those reports failed to understand was that sometimes being surrounded was exactly where you wanted to be. He sprinted toward the research facility, crashing through the undergrowth like a meteor. Every military instructor he'd ever had would have court-martialed him for the noise. But Marcus wasn't trying to hide, he was advertising. Come and get it, they came. Shadow Maws erupted from the tree line in a coordinated assault pattern that would have made a military strategist weep with envy. They moved like liquid death, their hive mind allowing them to attack from multiple vectors simultaneously. Marcus hit the ground sliding, his rifle barking 3-round bursts that found gaps in exoskeletons with surgical precision. But he wasn't trying to kill them all, just enough to make them angry. He reached into his pack and pulled out what his squad called party favors, magnetic explosive charges. As he ran, he slapped them onto trees, rocks, and the facility's outer wall, creating a breadcrumb trail of potential devastation. The Shadow Maws pursued with single-minded determination. Their mistake was assuming the human was prey. Humans didn't become the apex predator of Earth by being the biggest or the strongest. They did it by being the most relentlessly, creatively, insufferably stubborn species their planet had ever produced. Marcus crashed through the facility's emergency entrance, his voice booming through his comms. Science team, we're leaving in 60 seconds. Grab what you can carry and nothing else. Dr. Yamisi Okafor, the team lead, stared at him with wild eyes. They said it was impossible. They said a lot of things, Marcus interrupted, helping her and her team toward the exit. They were boring. Move. The Shadow Maws had surrounded the facility, their screeches creating a symphony of promised violence. Through his visor, Marcus counted 43 signatures. Excellent, almost all of them. He activated his detonator. The explosions created a cascading chain reaction that turned the forest into a temporary hellscape. Trees became shrapnel, the ground buckled, and the Shadow Maw's perfect coordination shattered into chaos. In that chaos, Marcus led the science team through the gap he'd deliberately created, his rifle providing covering fire as they sprinted toward the extraction point. Zekthar watched his sensors with disbelief as 7 human life signs, and one very calm Specialist Chen, approached the shuttle at speed, with only 12 remaining Shadow Maw signatures in pursuit. The human had walked into a predator's nest and walked back out with the very prey they'd come to protect. As Marcus bundled the last scientist into the shuttle and collapsed into a seat, his grin somehow even wider than before, Zekthar could only stare. "Specialist Chen," the commander finally managed, "your species is certifiably insane." Marcus laughed, pulling off his helmet. "Commander, you've got it all wrong. We're not insane." He glanced out at the receding planet where the Shadow Maws were regrouping, probably already learning from this encounter, adapting their tactics. "We just remembered something important that the rest of the galaxy forgot. Predator and prey aren't fixed categories. They're just roles we choose in the moment." His grin turned into something that made Zekthar's combat instincts scream warnings. "And humans?" Marcus continued. "We really hate being told what we can't do." Dr. Okafor, still shaking from the adrenaline, managed a weak smile. "Challenge accepted?" "Challenge accepted," Marcus confirmed. As the shuttle broke atmosphere, Zekthar made a note in his report to the Galactic Council. "The humans have a saying about holding beverages." He still didn't understand it, but he was beginning to suspect it was the most terrifying phrase in the galaxy, because when a human said it, impossible became just another Tuesday.